It had been a minute since I had seen this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I have some thoughts.
I'm so excited. Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so we, in preparation for our upcoming Portland trip, which you'll hear all about, but we decided to watch the 2004 Saw. And we're talking the original, none of the later ones to come, but the original Saw.
OG.
You've likely seen this movie, but if you haven't, essentially these two guys wake up in this disgusting room and they seemingly have nothing in common or know one another. One's a photographer, one's a doctor, but there's this guy that's been killed in the middle of the room laying down in a pool of blood.
Mm-hmm.
And basically this killer that's known as Jigsaw, who has committed other murders and they're on his trail, is behind all of this. And they have to figure out how to get out of this situation alive.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both shackled to the pipes. One of their feet is shackled to the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't move very much in the room. And that's the movie.
There it is.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to say, I rented this movie from Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and so renting it, clearly it wasn't in our library or anything.
Yeah.
So just push rent, purchase, and play. And what I wrote down in my notes was, wow, this gets right into it. The guy's getting out of his car. There's this creepy pig mask. Gets out of his back seat and he attacks him. And then I was like, wait a second, this seems weird. So then I paused it. It started an hour into the movie,
Oh my gosh.
even though I had just
strange.
rented it.
That's so weird.
So, I don't know if I had rented it years ago and only got an
Probably.
hour through and then it somehow remembered. But at first, I was like, oh, wow, I kind of like that it just gets right into it.
Just get right into it.
And then I was like, oh, wait, no, never mind.
Just jump straight to halfway through the movie. It's fine.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so
rewind.
because at least two of us are millennials. Yvette, what are you? Are you a millennial?
I'm right on the line, technically. Yeah.
But let's talk about the first time we saw it because it came out in 2004. So I would have been in high school. Laura, did you see it when it came out?
I don't think I saw it right when it came out. So it would have come out my freshman year of college.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I didn't see it right when it was out. I think I saw it, I rented it from a movie rental place,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to seeing it in the theater.
Okay.
And I remember it being a really big deal when it first came out.
Yeah. So we moved around a lot growing up. So I went to 5 different high schools, but my last 2 years I was at the same place. And the group of friends I was in, they were into it. And by that time, our senior year, it was 4 that came out, I think. So they wanted to watch the original first. And then we went to the theater. So that's when I saw it for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ladies, I have a confession. I have never seen this movie before, which I didn't realize until I started watching it. Because, okay, there's so many. There's 10 Saw movies.
Yeah.
So in my defense, I had seen some of the other ones or parts of the other ones. So I think probably the first one I saw was maybe Saw 6.
Okay.
And then I know I've watched the beginning of Saw 3D, which was technically Saw 7 or something. So I only watched this mid to end versions of Saw, which is probably why I hate this movie or thought I hated the Saw series.
The first is very different than the subsequent.
Yeah. Watching this, I was like, well, because I had remembered, again, because I had seen some or part of some of the other ones, I had fragments of what I thought Saw was, but it was oh, I don't remember which, what thing happened in which movie or stuff like that. So I had just assumed that at one point I watched the first one but this was
That's
my
fair.
first watch through.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, I feel like the first one, it actually, and we can, talk about our thoughts on how it was and rate it later, but I think conceptually it was a really interesting idea. And even just kind of the style of it, it actually reminded me a little bit of the vibes of Seven.
Definitely.
Totally.
Just because I think the time of it too. I actually think it was a really cool idea for a movie. And then because it was so successful, they just ruined, I was going to say butchered it. They just ruined it with like all of these ridiculous sequels that kind of lost the magic of the first one.
Definitely.
And in my opinion, so like like you were saying about like, I only have a couple of memories of ones where I'm like, that's what, like, I remember there was one where the guy had to put his hand in a vat of acid to get the key.
Yeah.
And he like puts his hand in it and it just dissolves as he's trying to grab. Anyways, but
yeah,
I don't even remember what I was saying. Honestly, that I just got distracted by the disgusting.
Because they're disgusting.
That.
Like,
I remember. Yes, but it had no storyline, that movie.
No.
Like, it was literally just about the gore and horror. Like, there was nothing was actually happening in the movie.
And you know what? In the original Saw, there is some gore, there is some grossness, but they don't actually show that much.
They really don't.
They
do cut away more than I thought they would. I will say it was still probably too much gore to my liking. I absolutely looked away.
Yeah, like there was a scene where I looked away because I thought I had to, and then as I glanced back, I was like, "Oh, they're not actually showing it, so it's okay."
Yeah, tamed it down a little bit in the first one.
Okay, well, let's just get into it. I know that Laura, you had a weird opening.
So the true opening is. I don't like it as much, actually. I kind of liked the original. It made sense. Like, it didn't like start halfway through a sentence when it started. It like it was at the beginning of that scene.
Oh, that's really funny.
The actual opening is the guy like wakes up in a tub. It's like he's almost like drowning or something.
Yeah, because really it's this really dark screen and we see the Saw title card come and it looks like it's underwater. And then we just see like very faintly and hear someone struggling underwater. And I actually think it's like a really strong start. Like, and then he realizes he's in the bathtub and I think it's a good start.
You see something fall down the drain because he, he has to kind of flail to get out of the tub so he doesn't drown, like, because he wakes up, comes to in the tub, and you see something go down the drain.
Yeah.
And it's the grossest bathtub you've ever seen in your life.
This room is like literally
so just grimy and dirty, which I know is what they wanted for the movie, and they did too good a job.
No, the set execution was done very well.
Definitely.
They did too good of a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we hear a voice, like a deep voice of a man, talking to him in the dark. And then somehow they discover that one of them is near a light switch.
Right.
So one of them turns on the lights. It's the guy that's the deep voice, which
Lawrence
or Larry, who recognized him.
I did not.
Well, yeah, because you're a child. Us elder millennials.
Okay, so I don't remember much about my first time seeing this movie, but what I do remember is the first time I saw this movie, seeing the actor that plays Lawrence and thinking, what the hell happened to Prince Wesley? Yeah, Prince Wesley from The Princess Bride. I'm like, what happened to him? Because his voice got kind of nasally or something. And like, I don't know, just the way he aged was not the way I thought he was. He is actually like a very like good looking man. But
I also have not aged the way I thought I would. So,
you know. But I just remember thinking like, that's not him. Like
what happened?
It's very alarming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But anyway, so that's what he's from. I forget his name.
The other kid is kind of like a no-name actor at this point, I think. I don't.
Yes, it was his first movie.
Oh, okay. He did very well for his first movie. But yeah, they're just in this disgusting room, and they quickly realize that they're shackled to the pipe.
And they see the dead body.
Right.
Yep.
They see the dead guy in the middle, and he's just this giant pool of blood, and
It looks like
the kid starts freaking out, and
yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the man had shot himself in the head. And you can see like the body, there's like brain matter kind of in the back of his head. And then you can see that he's holding a tape cassette, which
Yes.
for those of you who don't know what that means,
Like a tiny cassette.
like a tiny little cassette where like you used to record like voice memos into. Like a lot of times doctors would use it to like dictate their patient notes and stuff.
God, we're so old. I don't think we should talk about this movie anymore, you guys.
Well, it's 20 years old.
Yeah, 20 years
The
old.
movie came out 20 years ago.
Does that mean that I was in high school 20 years ago?
Yes. Yeah.
I could vomit.
Yeah, you've been out of high school longer than before when you graduated high school.
Damn.
Well,
You're
You
welcome.
didn't have to tell her that.
wow.
Hey,
I
I'm
will be silent the rest of the film because I am shook.
I am further along
I'm
than you,
shocked.
so it's all good.
Damn. Didn't know that was going to happen today.
And
Yeah.
so back to the body. They talk about like that he smells and that they clearly think that this is a dead body. But I have to say, and I don't know if this is just because I was watching it on my giant TV, but I could see him breathing right off the bat. And I don't know if that's because I know what ends up happening in the movie,
Right.
but I could see him breathing. Like,
Oh,
clear as
see,
day.
I couldn't.
I did.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either. But that is good that you noticed it because, I mean, obviously we know what's going to happen later.
Right.
Which again, for anyone who hasn't watched it, there will be spoilers.
Yes.
So
you know the show by now, so.
yeah. They didn't use a dummy. They only used a dummy for one scene, and we can talk about it when we get there. But for the scenes where there's just the body on the ground, that's the actor.
Nice.
He's just laying on the ground the entire time
I love
that they were filming this scene.
Do you think he got sore? Like, that looks like a hard floor and your face just smushed into it. Like,
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you have all that makeup on and like all the fake blood.
Yeah.
That they had to like put all over the place. So yeah, I mean, I actually didn't see it, but I'm not surprised that people probably did because he was a real person.
Okay.
Laying it on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that I'm not hallucinating. Cause like, you know, a few episodes ago where I saw the thing in the Shining and like it doesn't exist. So like I want to make sure I'm not just hallucinating things in movies.
We're taking Laura to get checked up next week.
Same thing.
You know, they say that all psychologists end up being the craziest ones. So
No, I think they were the craziest ones. They don't end up. They were the whole time.
oh well, yeah, we
They
just
were the
hide
whole
it pretty
time.
well. We just hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like we can't even say that that's really a mistake on the movie's end.
No.
Right? Because
Right.
that
It's
is
not.
actually more accurate.
Because yeah,
That's
he
what
would
had
have
been
been
happening.
breathing.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you'd think these guys are alone in this room for so long. You would think
They'd notice.
they'd notice.
No, I
Right.
feel
But
like
maybe
that's a big plot hole, especially
I mean,
because Dr. Lawrence is a
Yeah.
doctor.
right. I mean, they're not able to get up close to him because of the chains. And you know, they're probably so freaked out and focused on what's happening to them that they're not even cognizant of
yeah.
that body. Like they saw it and that's all. They kind of left it at that probably. Because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just, freaking out.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first thing to happen is the toilet, right? Where
Ugh.
Yeah, because they find some notes in their pockets.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They find or envelopes in their pockets.
Mhm.
And Lawrence's envelope has a tape
Mhm.
and a key and a bullet.
Mhm.
And then what's the other dude's name?
Adam.
Adam. Adam has just a note.
Right.
And they direct to like one says something about like follow your heart.
Yeah, like the tape has a whisper of someone
Yeah.
saying,
Well, they both have
"Follow
little
your heart."
tapes, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both have little
Yeah. Yeah.
tapes, but so Adam only has the tape.
Yes.
And then
So they see on the toilet that there's a heart written into. I cannot handle this scene.
No, it's
Oh,
so
God.
much.
I would rather watch someone be turned into a walrus than what
Again.
happens.
Dirty toilet water. Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Just the squelching.
Yeah. Also, like, when you saw the heart, tell me you were like, okay, clearly you checked the top first.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Of course.
The heart is on the top.
But he just reaches his hand in that disgusting toilet.
I mean, I will say it was kind of funny because he reaches in the gross toilet and then there's nothing in there. And then Lawrence is like, the doctor's like, well, look in the back of the toilet. And then he's like, wow. And he finds something. And he's like, wow, I really wish I would have thought of that before.
Yeah.
It was kind of
funny. Yeah.
So, you know.
It's early, because of that scene, it's early on. But should we talk about what we're sipping on?
Yeah, I was going to say, unironically, we decided what to do for our drink.
Mm-hmm. So it's not really so much that we're sipping on it as we're shooting it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Brianna has, and I think you got it for your husband, it's a shot glass in the shape of a toilet.
Yes, I have 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of his friends got it for him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
It's very classy.
It's so classy. They're just these 2 little white toilets.
Especially if you like do a shot of whiskey, because then it just looks like someone's pretty dehydrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we decided that we're going to do a shot of that. Mm-hmm. And then on the top of it, so the villain that we learn about upcoming has this one mask where it has like red and white swirl cheeks on the mask. Mm-hmm. So we're going to put a red and white swirl topper. You can really shoot whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever your heart desires.
I think that we are going to shoot sparkly rum. Mm-hmm. Because Brianna got me some sparkly coconut rum a little while
Love
ago.
that.
And then we'll do it with a whipped cream red food coloring swirl topper.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, if you don't have yourself a tiny urinal shot glass, maybe you should.
Yeah, maybe you should. It's a conversation starter.
It sure is.
Yeah, fun at parties.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So in the toilet, there's a black bag. And one of the things about this movie is that a lot of it is shot in a way where we're just seeing that person's perspective. Mm-hmm. So as we see it, it's a bag with saws, 2 little saws, and then photos. But Adam quickly throws the bag of photos into the bathtub and doesn't let Lawrence know he saw anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, because also, and they can hear each other's tapes.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to talk about the tapes because this is the setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Lawrence's tape tells him your job is you need to kill Adam by 6 o'clock. And there's a clock in the room. Mm-hmm. You need to kill Adam by 6 o'clock or Allison and Diana will die. Mm-hmm. And we learn later Allison and Diana is his wife and kid.
Yeah.
So Adam's probably like suspicious of Lawrence, rightly so.
Yeah.
Right. Because even if he's not in on it, now he knows like, oh, wait, if this guy doesn't kill me, his wife and kid are going to die. Well, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And
what does Adam's tape say?
So Adam.
Something about X marks the spot, right?
Yeah, it says follow your heart and X marks the spot is what
No, I think Lawrence has said follow your heart in a whisper. They played it back and they realized. Yeah. And then Adam says something about how like he's talking about how like you've never really been who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Now is your time.
Oh, and like being a voyeur.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Mm-hmm. You've only watched from the sidelines. And then X marks the spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so these saws that they have are just dinky little hand saws, and they both try to saw through the chains on their leg, but they're serious shackles.
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly the doctor is like, oh, he doesn't expect us to cut through our chains. He expects us to cut through our foot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they both like stop in frustration.
And that's when we get the first of many flashbacks.
Yes.
As Dr. Lawrence says, I think I may know who did this.
This guy is, right.
Mm-hmm. And the reason he knows is because he was a suspect for the murders. So I think at this point we kind of cut to, I think we see 2 victims right at the beginning, right? I forget the order. I forget if it's, one is the guy who's like trapped in this like barbed wire.
I think he's the first one.
That's the
tunnel.
first.
Yeah,
That's the
I think
first
that's
one.
the first.
Yeah. And so his game was he had to like get out before 3 p.m. And there was a door that was on a timer that shut at 3, but he had to get out. But in order to get out, he had to go through, just like this barbed wire tunnel thing that, and then he gets like stuck.
It's so disgusting.
It's
like
awful.
Hanging from the wires. And I think Jigsaw had specified there is one path that will let you get out of this without bleeding to death. But you have to find it. And the guy clearly couldn't find it, didn't have enough time. So he just tried to like dive through the barbed wire and ended up just like kind of hanging himself.
Yeah, like bleeding to death. And that's when we meet our 2 detectives, Tap or Trap. What's that name?
I think it's Tap.
And then I can't remember the other detective's name. His partner.
Hold on.
They don't say it as much because they're not focusing on him, but it's his partner.
Yeah.
They're kind of like introduced to this.
Oh, Sing. Tap and Sing.
Tap and that's cute. Like
that's cute. They should do a musical.
Boys.
Yes. Don't you think Tap and Sing are going to be in Saw the Musical?
Oh my gosh.
So
do you think they'll tap dance and sing?
I just genuinely have no idea what to expect, and I'm really excited. If you haven't heard, listeners, Laura and I are going to Portland to see Yvette, to see Saw the Musical all together in person. This required a trip. So,
and all I know is that there was an option to purchase tickets in the Splash Zone. So I will be busting out the. Do you remember the yellow rain jacket that I wore for our Alice Sweet Alice episode? I will be wearing that.
Yes,
that's the only appropriate thing to wear.
Maybe also the mask. I don't know.
I mean, why not?
Face.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's for protection, really.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So anyways,
we meet the detectives. And then the other case that they were introduced to was, I can't remember what her name was.
Well, there was the other one who died, right? And that was
right.
It was a guy who okay, so we should specify, it's like Jigsaw is trying to teach people a lesson. So the next guy, he was pretending to be sick. And apparently, the killer knows that he's pretending to be sick and discovered him. And he's like, well, because you are pretending and trying to get all this sympathy from people for faking being sick, now you're going to get burned. And so there was something that he needed to get from a safe. And the code to the safe was hidden in all of these gazillions of numbers, written all over the wall.
Yeah. Well, I think it was the antidote. He was like, now you're actually sick. So open the safe for the antidote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he was filled with the poison and in order to, be unpoisoned. But all he had for a light was one little candle. And so he had to use that to try to find all the different combinations of numbers. And he was also covered in a very flammable substance.
Yeah.
And he ended up lighting himself on fire.
Yeah. That was the only scene where they used a dummy. That's the only one where they didn't have a real actor.
So wait, was the suspension one an actor? When he was suspended in the barbed wire?
Yeah. So for that one, it was an actor. And honestly, such a good job. The whole thing was made of rubber, essentially.
Okay.
It just made it look spiky, but the entire thing was made of rubber.
Okay.
Fun. Yeah. So actually, I bet he was just kind of chilling.
Yeah, parkour.
Yeah.
Cool. So then when do we meet the girl that escaped?
So I think we see them and then we see her. So we see one person who has survived Jigsaw. And this is the first time we really see who was doing this, because we see this woman in a room sitting in a chair, and that's when she gets a video.
Yeah.
that's explaining to her what's about to happen, which is that she has this, that he refers to it as a reverse bear trap attached to her jaw that will snap open unless she gets the key. And he does like a demo of it with a little mannequin, and you just see it, like it opens and the entire head just explodes. Like so scary. And he tells her, okay, all you have to do is get the key. The key is in the stomach of your dead cellmate. So you just have to go get it. But she's only given like 60 seconds.
Yeah, she's given a minute.
And it's like, okay, go. So she's like freaking out. And then as soon as she stands up, you hear the timer go off. So it was like her standing up set off the timer for this jaw-breaking machine. And so she sees her quote unquote dead cellmate, who was not dead.
Who was not in fact dead.
He was not dead.
And she realizes that just as she's going to like cut him open.
But she does it anyway. She continues to cut him open. And because she was given a knife to do that. So she like has to like fish like through his intestines, like feel around to find the key.
Yeah. I think it was pig stuff.
Okay. Okay. Because it looked pretty real.
Yeah. No, it looked pretty real. So I was curious. And yeah, I think it was some pig, some pig stuff.
And she does. She gets it in time and she takes the head thing off. I think like this scene to me is so memorable because of like the version we see of her in the police station. You know, she's got just her mouth has these scars on it. And you also can see her arms that like she's a drug addict, like a junkie. And I don't know, that just like the depiction of her after I thought was so like.
That was your dog.
That like depiction of her afterwards is so like intense that I've just always thought of it. Yeah.
Well, and she says something interesting too. She says that almost that she's kind of grateful for it because Jigsaw saved her life or changed her life, I think.
Yeah.
Because she was really going down this path of like not appreciating her life and not valuing it. And then once she had to fight to survive, now it almost made it seem like she's clean now, or she's, you know,
I know you said fight to survive, but it sounded like you said bite to survive.
Fight to survive.
And that's true too.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then she also sees like Jigsaw on the little tricycle, which again, iconic.
So my question is, was that Jigsaw or was that just a puppet?
Oh, it's just a puppet, I think.
Just a puppet.
Yeah. And I think it's supposed to be just a puppet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but he makes it talk as him.
Yes.
Right.
But so creepy.
Which is weird.
No, but the puppet is so well done. Like the little Jigsaw character is so good. It's like, yes, put him on a creepy tricycle.
Yes.
Why not?
Creepy tricycle just with this like odd shaped head and like the swirly cheeks. Like, he's very creepy, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So also we learn in this, like looking back and finding out the story, the reason why Lawrence knows is because he was a suspect, because I forget which victim, maybe even the guy that was the suspended in the wires. At one of the scenes they find, it's so funny because detectives, they find this light up pen, and it's like a pen that's also a light, but it was the most generic plain white pen I've ever seen. There was nothing making it
I thought that was so funny, where it's like, oh, is this yours? It's like a generic white pen
that lights up at the end.
And why, what I don't remember knowing is like, why did they link it to him?
Well, my thought is all they had to do is stencil onto the pen like Dr. Lawrence, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then it would be obvious, right? But like, they didn't show that. They just showed like a plain white pen.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, did you get like fingerprints? It's like, why are his fingerprints in the system? Like, what?
So I will say the actor that plays Tap, like I have seen in other things and enjoyed, But like his acting in particular in this film was not my favorite thing to happen. Because there were just all these moments where I was like, that's so cheesy or so like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was, but I mean, I feel like the character was just very over the top.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. It was the character that was poorly done. Yes. Yes.
So we also had learned that Lawrence was having an affair 5 months ago. So this is when he was the suspect. And the reason why this comes out is because he struggles to give an alibi for where he was when the murder that he was suspected of was happening. Because he doesn't want to admit I was in a hotel about to have an affair. That just comes into play later.
Yeah.
Okay, but can we talk about it?
Yeah.
His affair?
Wait, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Because like the scene where he finally is with that girl, like what the fuck was happening? Like I literally had to rewind it and I was like, I Googled about it because I was like, am I not like
No, it was weird.
I was like, so wait, did they ever have sex? Is this a different girl? Is this a new girl? Is she a hooker? Like, do they know each other? Like, I just don't understand what happened when he walked into that room and met her.
No, so confusing. And then like later, he's like so adamant about the fact that he did not cheat.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like I didn't cheat. And it's like,
so, like, did he hire a hooker and then decide not to? Is that what happened? Maybe.
Here's what I think happened.
Okay.
I think they knew each other. I think she was an employee of the doctor's office.
Okay. I guess she did call him doctor, whatever. Yeah.
So I think there has been a flirtation happening between them for quite some time. And I think that he is kind of married to his work. He doesn't spend enough time at home. And so he's been tempted by this woman. And there's maybe even been like a kiss or something. But because they only see each other at work, it's kind of limited to that. So the flirtation builds. They decide, you know what? Let's meet up at a hotel. So then they go meet up at a hotel. But then when it's time to pull the trigger, do the actual affair, he backs out and is like, nah, I can't do this.
Their chemistry was just so weird that I was like, it really kind of feels like maybe she's just hired.
Yeah.
And he changed his mind. Like I literally could not understand. And then I was like, oh, maybe she's like a sick kid's mom and she's sleeping with him to like get him to take care of her kid. Like I got the vibe that like she was there because he had something against her. I could not figure out what the fuck was happening. It was very weird. I did not like it.
Yeah, because I feel like there was the idea of, okay, maybe this is the first time they're doing this, but then also it made it seem like this was a regular thing.
Yes.
Where it was like, oh, like, you know, the instructions. It's like, oh, you know, how we're supposed to do this.
Yeah, that's what he said. Like, it was very
at the wrong time. And it's like,
clinical.
So it's not the first time you guys have like a plan.
Yeah, it was very weird.
That
could have been done better.
There's parts of this movie that weren't done so great.
Yeah.
That's one of them. So there's that.
So, but a part that was done great, and I know we were just kind of talking about like we're jumping all over the place, but when the scene of the girl who has the bear trap, I just have to say I loved the like early 2000s grunge vibe where like, and it happens several times in the movie where it's like all of a sudden the camera goes super fast and it's like green and like there's like the alternative music happening and it's like it's such a vibe. And I loved it so much.
That was like what really made me think of Seven was that kind of like energy. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, so we won't be perfect with the timeline because it's weird and that's okay. But like, and then
it's because there's flashbacks and there's like flashbacks within flashbacks.
Yes.
And then I swear there are some times in the movie where the story does not make sense. Like, it's like, wait, this chronologically there's no way this is happening.
Because I was going to say there's no way that could be the killer because I remembered that the killer was in the room. And so I was like, that can't be happening. And then, yeah. And then we see Tap get injured and it's a whole, I don't know. It's a whole thing.
There's a lot of jumping around. So we will also be jumping around.
But at some point we do see the story of his family back home.
Yeah.
So it's his wife, who I just have to say, like, I love this actress, Monica Potter. She was in that one crime thriller. Oh, that was so good. She was like an FBI agent, and the kid that it's amazing. She's so good in it. It's like Along Came a Spider. That's it. So good. If you haven't seen that, that's an excellent movie. But we see, like, his wife and daughter are at home, and we kind of know that, like, he doesn't give them enough time and attention. We get that vibe.
Definitely.
Very early on.
Well, because we see too, like, the little girl got scared and she was like, Dad, there's a man in my room.
Yeah.
And the dad just dismisses it. Like, no, there's no man in your room. I'll come say goodnight to you.
Yeah. So then we just finished this paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he does. So, like, oh, it's cute. And then I'm trying to remember at what point.
So then he goes, I think, to have the affair.
Right.
Yeah. He has like a little moment with his wife.
So this is the problem, because he said it was 5 months ago, but then it was that night that the kids got kidnapped.
Exactly.
Right.
It makes no sense.
No, some stuff like does not add up.
No, the timeline is not accurate.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
so the little girl gets scared. He takes her to bed. And then he has like a little tiff with his wife, who's like, at this point, I just wish you would tell me you hate me or something, because at least that'd be something. Right. And it's like, okay, I have to go to work / have an affair. And right after he leaves, we go back to the little girl's room.
And there was a man.
He's not in the corner under the bed. He's in the closet. And you just see like the eyeball like poking out. I forget what he says. I feel like he says a little line.
No, I feel like he does too, but I don't remember.
I think he says something like, oh, like, hi, little girl, or like something like that. He says a little line. And then she screams. Mom comes in, and you see this figure, because he's like in a blanket.
Yeah.
Going to like grab her. And so like they're being, he like is able to like tie them up, I guess, to a bed.
Right.
And I think at this point, it looks to me, because I know this actor, that so we haven't mentioned, there's this guy named Zepp, the orderly at the hospital where Lawrence works.
Yes.
And I love this actor so much. So he was in Lost, and he played like kind of like just this creepy, awful, wonderful character in Lost. I forget the guy's name that plays Zepp. But he has just such like a little like weaselly face. Yeah. But he's such a good actor. Like, but he seems like he's up to no good. Like, he just seems like he's a piece of shit.
100%. Yeah.
So we had seen him before, and he was in this one scene where he was talking about, oh yeah, there's this man who has a tumor on his, prefrontal cortex. And all the doctors are very clinical, just talking about the man like he's not in the room. And Zepp seems very offended. He's like, he has a name, which of course I'm forgetting right now.
Yeah.
John?
Sure. But yeah, so we can see that it's Zepp that has the wife and daughter.
Yeah. And then as Zepp goes and like looks out the window, we get a little aha moment, because, oh, don't worry, they're safe. I thought the cop, Tap, is watching him.
Yep.
He's like across the street watching through a window. And then you cut to a room where it's like the crazy, like basically strings tying newspapers together, like has not left this room in a while. And it's like,
And we see Tap, and the way that he's talking is so like uncomfortably corny almost, because he's like, I knew it was you, and I'm gonna get you, and I knew you were the one, and
I shouldn't have let you get away.
I shouldn't have done that. And you're like, what? Like,
he's lost it. He's
gone.
So Tap is played by Danny Glover. Like, which I think he can act, but not so much.
No, I think it was like, I mean, even Dr. Lawrence's acting is.
Oh, honestly, I thought the only people who did really good acting, the little girl was amazing.
I was just going to say that. She was the best.
She was so good. And then Zepp was okay.
Yeah. And then at some point during all of this, we had a moment where they were in the room again and, they were just feeling sad and sentimental. And Dr. Lawrence pulls out his wallet and he's looking through pictures and he's like, oh, yeah. And then he throws it over to Adam to look at. And he's like, if you look behind that one, it's of all three of us. And it's my favorite picture. And he goes to pull it out and it's not. What it is it's a picture of his daughter and wife gagged and like terrified. And then what does it say on the back?
Oh, it says something about like, it's like something about how like it's something about like seeing.
Like sometimes you see better with your eyes closed or something like that.
Yes, something like that, yes.
Something that clearly points to turn off the lights.
Yeah. And he hides this from Dr. Lawrence. So he throws it in the tub again. He just throws everything in the tub.
Which, fair, because, I mean, like when he did that, I was like, okay, yeah, that's smart. Like you're in this situation. You're both not even sure if this is real. At one point, they make a reference to, I think this is later, where it's like, oh, this is reality TV, actually, maybe. Yeah. So it's like,
they discover the two-way mirror.
Yeah. So
yeah, and Adam accuses Dr. Lawrence of being the killer. Like, there's a lot of.
At this point, they're still unsure on what the situation is. It's like, but seeing them real, and it's like, okay, this guy has to kill me to save them. You're not going to show him that picture.
No. Right. No, it's smart. It's smart. I also wanted to point out that when Larry Lawrence, we'll call him, when he was having one of those flashbacks of like the sweet moments of his family, one of the most offensive parts of this movie, he's like tucking his little girl in and he goes, "Give me your Tootsie." The fuck?
It's your foot.
Toes.
Who calls a foot a Tootsie?
Like a lot of children.
What?
Yeah. I would say that's a pretty common.
A Tootsie?
I think that was that weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did not like it. That seemed weird to me.
One of the kids I liked, their foot was the Tootsie, but their toes was the Tootsie Rolls.
Oh.
So I've heard it a lot, actually.
I've heard the word Tootsie, but I never thought foot was a Tootsie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I didn't think it was that weird. It seemed like a little father-daughter moment.
Well, I was offended.
Well, I hate it.
Thanks, I hate it.
Thanks, I hate it. Okay. Apparently that wasn't that offensive. You can cut that part out.
I'm keeping that in.
I will never cut out any part you ever tell me to. If that's like, oh, we should cut that out, I'm like, yeah, you're right. If you tell me to, I'm like, definitely leave it in.
That's so rude.
No, it's not. It's because you're gold, Laura.
No, not when I'm upset about Tootsies.
Stop saying Tootsie.
See, it's offensive.
I'm starting to dislike it.
Only when you say it 45 times.
Tootsie.
Okay, so I don't even know what's happening at this point. Lots of things have happened. So I don't know. Let's just get to the goods. Like,
okay, so a good thing is that Tap and singer,
not singing. Sing.
Tap and sing.
Tap and sing. They're rewinding the tape over and over again of Amanda, the girl with the bear trap, and this again, the timeline's kind of funky because clearly this had to have been a while back.
Yeah.
But they discover a certain part of graffiti on the video that Jigsaw was in, and they also hear a fire alarm. So they look up records. This is actually good police work.
Mm-hmm. They're like, enhance.
Mm-hmm. The technology that they had.
And so they find Jigsaw's house or lair or whatever.
Yeah, it's an abandoned.
Which,
situation.
because it's oh, do you think we'll get a warrant? It's who said anything about a warrant? And it's okay, just bring backup.
Huh. Exactly. Thank you. That is never how it would have happened.
Yeah. At least tell one other person.
Right.
One other cop in the building.
It never actually would have ever gone down like that. There's no fucking way.
Yeah. That was bad decision number one going into this.
But they go into his lair and
they see all kinds of creepy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the puppet.
And
Well,
lots of things are covered in like red drapes. They
Yeah.
have to like unveil things,
Mhm.
which I loved.
And I love that one of the things that they find is like a little scale model of the bathroom that we know the
Yes.
two guys are in, which for some reason I just loved.
It's
I
so
know, me
cute.
too.
It's like the little scale model. There's even like 2 or like 3 little guys in it.
Uh-huh.
Like
You know,
everything is scaled down.
I feel like it's time in my life that I need a new hobby, and maybe like model scales of like horror movies.
Love it.
Should be my new thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like I could do that.
absolutely.
I've been
I've
getting
been
a lot of those
inspired.
like, you know, like the big doll houses that people will do. I've been getting a
Mhm.
lot of that on my TikTok recently.
Okay.
And
All right.
I want one. So
I'm feeling called.
yes.
It's happening.
Hmm.
Spooky sips. I don't know. We'll have to find a cute name for it.
Yeah.
It'll be our next merch line.
Yeah.
Yes.
In addition to the ghosties. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
does
they're
it-
in this little thing. They're like revealing little sections of the warehouse, and then they hear some muffling,
Oh.
and it's a person.
Mhm.
So they take the red drape off, and there's someone there, and he's like, is he like handcuffed into this chair?
Yeah, he's like held
Yeah.
down into
Yeah.
this like it's like a doctor office
Yeah.
table, and he can't move.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
he's like strapped in. He's like trying to like muffle for help,
Mhm.
but then they see someone come in. So
Mhm.
they're like, oh, wait, I bet that's the killer. They cover everything back up. They're like, sorry, dude, we'll be
Yeah.
back.
Bye.
Which is like, what? They cover everything back up and they like hide. So they can surprise Jigsaw, I guess.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because they want to like, I don't know why they want to surprise him.
I don't
Like,
either.
take
I
him.
don't either.
Yeah, it's
You
like
wanna,
you're
like, see
already
what he's
gonna
gonna do.
surprise him. You
Because
think he
here's the
expects you
thing.
there?
This isn't happening on the same timeline as the doctor and Adam.
No, yeah, that should be.
So it's
right.
not like they
Yeah.
want to catch him to give him details of where
Evidence.
that guy is.
Mhm.
Right.
Like these are two different times that this
Right.
now we don't necessarily know that, the audience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's why they're trying to like not kill him so they can get information out of him.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, either way, it fails horribly. So
Right.
they're like, surprise. And he's like, oh, you know that guy that was strapped to the chair? He's gonna die now. So you have 20 seconds. You either save this guy or arrest me.
Because he like flips the switch so the drills start going towards
Yeah, there's
his
these
head.
two drills next to his temples
And they're just like
that are starting to
slowly
go in.
going
And
straight
he's
for the
told
brain.
that it's that key on the keychain that'll unlock the off switch. And there's like a bazillion keys.
Yes. Mhm.
It's like
So
that
it's-
classic like janitor key ring. Like they're
Yeah.
just
But I love this moment where Singh is the one trying to help him. And instead he just shoots the two drills.
Yeah.
Smart.
I'm like, love. I
Finally.
love that. Yes.
Smart.
But
Yes.
while he does that, Tap or Zep, right?
Tap is the detective.
Yeah.
But isn't it?
Zep is the orderly.
But wait, was that? But wasn't it? Oh God, you guys, I'm getting confused.
So
anyway,
Detective Tap,
Tap
and then
gets his-
Zep.
Tap gets his throat slit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because surprise. Well, I guess it's technically not Jigsaw. We know that's Zep in a little thing.
Right.
who's
Right,
doing
that's
the
what I was
bidding.
getting confused by.
Yeah. He has a surprise knife, and he slits his throat, runs away.
And then Detective Singh somehow follows him down, but he crosses this line where there was a tripwire.
All those booby
And
traps.
he gets like decapitated, I think, or something.
Super shot.
Yeah, like, yeah. He's gone.
Yep.
And then-
Singh has sang his last song. You guys, I thought of it a few minutes ago. I've been
She's here
waiting.
all
No,
night,
that
ladies
was-
and
that was
gentlemen.
good.
I've been waiting.
That was good.
She's here
I don't know
all
if you
night.
noticed a few minutes ago, I started smiling like an idiot on Zoom, and it's because I was like, "Oh, I thought I
You just
got-
do that sometimes, so it didn't seem
I was
too
like,
weird.
Anyway, and that's what causes Tap's obsession with
Mhm.
catching Zep and like jigsaw
and cracking the case.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then we get back to the toilet room.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just more bullshit happening. They're lying to each other. They're crying. Lots is happening.
Yeah, because at one point they get a phone call from the phone.
Yes.
Because they find the X.
Yes.
Because Adam
he
says,
tells him to turn the lights.
Turn off the light. Because he realizes, that's what the message on the back of your picture means.
Yeah, so they turn off the light, get the thing. In it, there's some cigarettes, a lighter, and a phone.
And a little note.
Yes. That says, like, the cigarettes are harmless, but you can kill him with other ways.
And he had mentioned earlier in one of the voice recordings that the dead body in the room, quote unquote dead body, he said, like they said something about how, when you have so much poison coursing through your veins, what choice do you have but to shoot yourself? So it makes it seem like the blood that's been leaking out of him is very poisonous.
And this leads to my least favorite part of the movie, I have to say. So the doctor is like, oh, I'll dip. Because Adam is a smoker. And he's like, holy shit, give me one of those. And the doctor is like, oh, if I dip it in the blood and Adam smokes it, he'll die. But then these two boneheads, which I just cannot believe that he is an educated man and thought this would work.
Yeah,
but he's dumb. Like, wait, turn the lights off because they know they're being watched, right? So from a camera. So he turns the lights off. And he's like, Adam, listen very carefully.
Yeah, you hear him like whispering. Like,
and they turn the lights back on and the doctor swaps out cigarettes. So it's a safe one. And he throws it to Adam.
And he's like, oh, do you still want that cigarette? This
and I was
one
like,
right here?
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. Thank you. And the acting that happens. So then he lights up and becomes the best performance of the year, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. It's like when you're a kid and you're like pretending to I don't get poisoned or something, and you like do that fake thing, and then like how you're dead. And we used to, our older sister and I used to do this to Brianna, where we'd pretend we were dead and we would stick our tongues out the side of our mouth.
Yeah, and that's how I knew they were dead.
Yeah,
it's exactly like that. And so, of course, such a convincing, and then the doctor goes, "I did it! I killed him!
I did it!"
And so, from behind the scenes, Jigsaw reveals that he can electrocute them through their chains. And he just shocks the hell out of Adam, who obviously is not dead. And, the plan didn't work. Like that
Their
was
genius plan.
Dumbest moment in this movie.
So dumb.
So dumb. And then they both start they both suddenly like remember their their abductions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lawrence's abduction is when I first started the movie the first time, where he's like
your opening scene.
Yeah, my opening scene. Like he's leaving the hotel and he goes to make a call, but the phone won't work, kind of like what happened in the little box that he got that had a cell phone in it.
Yes, because he's like, oh, this has happened to me before. And that's what unlocks his. I think it's that he was in the garage, but the door was closed because it said something like call if after 11 p.m. or something.
Yeah. And so like it was the same sort of like error, tone that he got on the phone. And then he gets attacked by like someone wearing this like creepy pig mask.
And it's so creepy the way he like comes out of the back seat.
That scene, I don't know why that was so unsettling to watch.
That's a scary scene.
Because he's making this phone call, he's like trying to get service, and then we see it through one of those like parking lot mirrors, that they put up in the corner, like the like curved ones so you can like see.
Right.
And it's just like the way that it like opens the door slowly and then like really slowly starts coming out of the car, but like the movements
are kind of jerky and
like inhuman. And you can see there's like some like a mask of some sort on. So it's like, I don't know why that scene was so unsettling to me.
Yeah.
Watching
totally.
that.
Totally. Also, I feel that this movie was ahead of its time, because did you notice the license plate of Lawrence, the doctor?
No.
His license plate was bruh 63.
Bruh. Bruh.
Perfect.
Okay, bruh.
That's hilarious. Just
Anyway,
bruh.
and I just the acting, like, because then after Lawrence remembers his abduction, he then sees the picture of his family, and the acting of him seeing the picture of his family is so atrocious. I just, like, it totally took me out of the movie. Like, it was just so bad.
I agree.
It was just a lot because again, it's like he. I feel like his character has kind of been set up as this like emotionless. Really, I think is the best way to describe it. Right? Like it's like he gives patients bad news and has like no reaction. When Adam is like freaking out, he's kind of like, let's just figure out what's going on. Like let's try to get through this. So it's like he's very like emotionless, and it's like it felt like weird.
I agree.
When he has this reaction.
It was like 0 to 100. Like it was very
totally.
And it wasn't even like, oh, when I guess probably what they were going for is like, oh, this is like what breaks him. Like he does have a heart, but I feel like they didn't quite get it, so it felt out of character.
I agree.
Totally. And then Adam also remembers his abduction.
Right. Yes.
And so as much as like there's been some scenes that have been stupid that we've been talking about, I did like part of Adam's scene of abduction. So it turns out he's a photographer, and he was paid to kind of follow Lawrence and like take all these pictures of evidence of his affair. But then he comes home one night and he like something's obviously off, like someone's in the home, or he's like hears something and he's freaked out. But I don't know if it's that he doesn't want to turn the lights on or can't turn the lights on.
He wakes up, he like takes a little nap in his little light room.
Okay.
And then he wakes up because all the lights are off. And then even like the flashlight doesn't work. So his power's out.
So I loved how he's like going through trying to find the person that is there to do him harm. And the only way he can do it is just by flashbulb, like taking like flash pictures with his camera. I just thought that was a brilliantly done scene.
Oh, I love that.
I agree.
And you can hear the camera flash like recharging.
Yeah.
So he like shoots it, and then you get to hear that like little like mirror, like and then like shoot, and then oh no, I love that so much.
It's a very good scene. Yeah. Yeah.
So and then he sees this, it's the same person.
Yeah.
That abducts him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, I think Dr. Lawrence doesn't know that what Adam was doing. So this is when they get the phone call, or somewhere between this, they get a phone call.
No, you're right.
In the one-way phone, where Dr. Lawrence is told to not believe Adam's lies
by his wife and his crying child. Yep.
So I think this is when is this when he confesses?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. He like then he knows that he gets paid. Oh yeah, because he explains that he gets paid to take pictures of rich cheaters.
Yeah.
And then he tosses him the bag of photos that's full of the photos he took of him. So he's staring at photos of himself.
And I think this is when we get the scene of him actually like saying no to the affair, like that weird hotel room scene we'd already talked about. That's I think when we see this. Okay, so then we discover that the person who paid Adam to take pictures of Lawrence, which I originally was thinking was going to be Jigsaw, right?
Naturally.
No, it was Tap.
Yeah.
Detective Tap, because he's obsessed.
Yes. And I think that's when we like officially learned that he was discharged from the police department.
Because we see him and he's now got a healed scar. Oh, because he asked what he looks like. And Adam describes Tap, but now with a scar around his neck. Yeah.
And at some point during like this time, Lawrence starts talking about the murders that have happened or something. The only reason I wrote this down is because clearly like sometimes the accent of the actor that played Lawrence came out, because all of a sudden he like he's talking about the murders.
The murders.
And honestly, I feel like the longer the movie went on, like the later into the movie, the worse it got.
Yes, totally.
Seriously, because towards the end, it was so bad.
That's
The
so
murders.
funny.
I was like, why not just let them be English?
I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see.
So I feel like we're kind of at like we're
coming to like some ends.
coming
Yeah.
at
So
the
like
end. Mm-hmm.
Tap ends up like going to the house where like the wife and daughter are.
Oh, because he sees what looks like a gunshot. Like
Yeah, he's like napping, so he missed the entire beginning of their little fight.
Yeah. But because really the mom is like, no, I'm not just like going to be this victim. And she like works her way out of like her little tie. And then, she's trying to get her daughter free. And then she goes and because the time is up, we should say. So Lawrence was given till 6 p.m. and it's 6 p.m. now. So Zepp goes to the house where the wife and daughter are. And he's like, sorry, your time's up. And he's going to shoot her.
Okay, can we talk about the fact that it's like, so he like set up this whole like surveillance room in
at
their house?
Yeah. And there was not even that much time between what was happening. Like, I know his whole lair is now in their house.
Is in their house.
Yeah.
I mean, his last one got found out. He's got to move on.
Right. But yeah, she pretended to be
still tied up. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Still tied up. But she wasn't. So she got the gun from Zepp. And she's like, I'm going to kill you. And all the while, he's on the phone with Dr. Lawrence being like, oh, I'm going to kill your wife. And Dr. Lawrence can just hear the screaming and yelling and going on. And he doesn't know who's doing what, who's got the gun, what's going to happen. And then it's like, what, does the phone hang up? And then.
Well, so the mom ends up stabbing Zepp.
Okay.
And then there's this chase scene. And then the next thing I wrote down is, why is everyone in movies so bad at shooting? So there must have been some shots that were
because I think it's harder than it looks.
Yeah. So Detective Tapp here's the shooting from across the street, and that's when he goes.
Yes.
And so he's trying
house.
he goes to the house trying to get Tapp. And that's when they get into like a little chase.
Yes.
Where so Zepp gets into the car and Tapp gets after him. So at this point I was like, oh my gosh, what is that car chase scene? Because they did that like sped up effect.
Yes. The like frantic.
Honestly, it was silly, but I kind of liked it. Like it was terrible, but I liked it. So
because at this point, and it's important, like as the viewer, we think Zepp is Jigsaw.
Yes.
So he's going back to the toilet room, as we'll now affectionately call it,
to kill Dr. Dorn.
And so he gets there like 2 seconds before Tapp and runs inside.
Yeah. And that's when they're like shooting at each other like as they're like going through this warehouse.
So meanwhile,
because
Lawrence has heard this, he's losing his shit. He's like, oh my God, my wife and daughter are like in trouble right this second. I gotta go. So he just loses it and just saws off his foot.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, this part was actually very well done because we don't see anything, but we hear it.
You hear it.
And we know in our heart.
You see some spray.
I actually really love the way they handled this. Like, this to me is like beautiful horror when you can't see it, but you just know.
Yeah. No, it's
perfection.
He's just losing it.
Love
Adam
it.
is like trying.
Yeah, and Adam is screaming, being like, stop. Like
dude, stop. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
His foot's gone. And he crawls over to the dead body because he's got the bullet. So he puts the bullet in the gun.
And he goes,
shoots at him.
Well, and he goes, you have to die. Like the stupidest voice.
I know. Yeah. And so he shoots at him. But at that moment, like the door swings open.
And Lawrence is crawling around on the floor, like, and they did not do a good job of making it look like he had no foot. Clearly, they just made his pant leg a little too long. and stuck his
Definitely.
Like, yes. Okay, so this movie isn't perfect.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so Zepp now comes in. And I think, isn't it at this point that we see Zepp's backstory or what?
Well, so Zepp comes in. Did we already, sorry if we already said this. Did we say that Lawrence shot Adam?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so he shot Adam, but turns out Adam is not dead. And then Adam starts like beating Zepp to death.
Yeah.
Right, once Zepp is in the room, we realize he's not dead.
Yeah.
With the toilet
With like
Lid.
the toilet
lid.
lids.
Yeah. Mhm.
So while we see him killing him, I think that's when we then learn Zepp's story.
Okay, that Zepp is in fact just another victim. And
Yeah.
he received a tape being like,
Did he have? I think he had his tape.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he might have.
He did. You're right.
Yes.
He did. Yeah, they fished in his pockets and he had his tape.
Oh yeah, and I think they listened to it.
He had to.
When
I
it's
think
like, oh,
he would kidnap the wife and daughter, right? Like that.
Yeah.
His job was to kill the wife if it didn't happen in time, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So we're like, oh shit. So Zepp is not Jigsaw. And we're
No.
like, oh shit.
Mhm.
So at this point, Zepp is now dead. And
Yes.
Dr. Lawrence is like, I will save you to Adam.
Yeah, he's like, I have to go, otherwise I'm gonna die.
He clearly makes it known that he shot him in a way that wouldn't kill him.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So it's just a shoulder wound. Which I'm like, then why didn't Adam get the fuck up and go find someone? He has 2 feet. Why the fuck didn't Adam get up?
Oh
Well,
yeah.
because Adam's
Adam's still
still
chained.
chained.
Adam's still chained.
Oh,
Which
okay. I was
we're
like, wow,
about
what
to-
a lazy bastard. Like,
Well, because that's what we're about to learn.
no,
right?
you're right.
So
You're
Dr.
right.
Lawrence crawls away
Yes.
to get help. And that's where I wrote, I was like, I don't think he's gonna make it very far. Dr.
Because
Lawrence
we know Tap is outside. We're like,
Yeah.
this has been 45 minutes. Where the fuck is Tap? He was 2 seconds behind.
But didn't Tap
yeah.
get shot?
Oh wait, yeah, no, he
Yeah,
died.
Tap's dead.
Oh shit, you're right. He did.
He died.
Okay, fine, fair.
He did.
Yeah, he died during the little altercation, the
Okay.
little chase. So yeah, Dr. Lawrence is like, I'm gonna go get help. Crawl away.
So
And
I think
that's-
like this moment for me is what makes this movie so iconic, and it's just like, to me, what was revolutionary about this film. Like no one had done this before. Like it just felt very
Mhm.
amazing.
So good. Mm-hmm.
The dead body starts to get up,
Yep.
and we're like, holy fucking shit.
And just how slowly he like,
Uh-huh.
and then he starts to peel away a mask.
The
Yeah.
fake
It's like
wound.
the bloodshot
Mhm.
wound.
And who is he? But none other than the
The patient.
guy that was the
Yeah,
patient that was in the
John,
bed
or
with the
whatever.
the tumor in his prefrontal cortex.
Mhm.
Because yeah, like you mentioned this at the beginning of the film, we're led to believe that Jigsaw has this motive of like people don't appreciate their life. And I
Mhm.
want to remind them. And so like to learn that it's a guy with a fatal brain tumor, we're like, oh, so that's why
That's what's happening.
he does this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And I
yeah,
will-
he. Mhm.
I will say, I feel like the ending of this movie, like it for a little bit of time, like it goes really quick, like it's really intense, and then it just drags. Again, for lack of a better word, just like his
Just
bloody
like-
stump, it
just
just
like Dr.
drags
Lawrence.
on
Mhm.
so slowly.
Honestly, I even felt like the part with the mother and daughter like was dragging on a little bit. I was like, oh my god.
Okay, well, let's just get to the end, right?
Yes.
So he gets up. We get the reveal of who is truly behind this, and that's when he tells Adam that the key is in the tub, and that was the thing that we saw go down the drain at the beginning of the movie. And he walks away and closes the door.
Bam.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal.
And that's it.
There we go.
That's the end.
Scene.
And a saw.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
So all I could think the whole time was how we will be in the splash zone And I was trying to think of like what moments would be. Obviously, like having his foot cut off, I hope.
And I was thinking maybe like some toilet water or a pipe bursting.
Oh,
yeah.
And I hate that.
I don't know.
I hate that. Vomit. Vomit in the theater.
Like, I'm curious if it's going to be just Saw, like, or like a spinoff of that, or multiple
All
of the
them?
Saws, which
Yeah.
I think I saw parts of like Saw 2 and or 3, and they were just so gruesome and like lacking the story that I just didn't watch them. Like,
I've literally done so little to look at this.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
I just want to
it's
go
better
blind.
as a surprise.
Yes.
We'll go get some drinks first, and
Yep.
Yes.
it'll be fun.
100%.
Yeah.
So excited.
Well, is now a good time to get into some psych for this movie?
Yeah, we can talk
I'm
a little.
excited to see where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And just remember, folks, she's not a real doctor, but neither was Dr. Lawrence, because they're not real people. So it's okay.
Exactly. So first, we've talked about this a little bit in other movies, but I thought we could just do a little bit more chatting about what makes this survival instinct. Because I feel like this movie, to its core, in fact, I even think that Jigsaw says something about like having a survival instinct, and he wants to get people in touch with that so that they start to value their life more. So, which survival instinct is really this ability to know what to do to stay alive. So, or like self-preservation could also be considered that. And it's considered a basic instinct in most organisms. So typically what happens is we might perceive a threat to our existence, and then our sympathetic nervous system activates very, very quick emotional, psychological, and physical changes. And that's what leads to like our fight, flight, or freeze. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is actually all of the responses to like an immediate threat to danger, which I just feel like everyone in these situations has to like quickly kind of go through and respond to, oh my God, what do I do to survive?
Yeah.
Most of them, it doesn't work. But for the one that it does, it like gives her this newfound like sense of, appreciation for her life. So I found when I was like kind of looking up the survival instinct, there's this one model of how humans like predict and respond to danger. And it's cheesy. It's called the SOS, the Survival Optimization System.
Okay.
Nice.
So, and it's kind of based on this assumption that there's this set of systems that have evolved in humans to combat threats. And there's different systems that all like kind of work with each other or independently of each other. So the first one would be neurocognitive. So that is first you have to sense the danger in your environment. And then you have to orient like your attention toward that potential threat. Then you have to assess not only the threat, but also your possibilities of escape. So like you have to be able to kind of like just think through and process all of that. So that's what goes on in your head in these situations. Also, our nervous system is hardwired for some of the defense reactions that we saw in some of the victims. And then also like higher levels of our brain, like higher cognitive thinking, like more like trying to understand, okay, who put me in this situation? Like, do I even want to get out? If I get out, then what? Things like that, like deeper level thinking. So if you're going to have a good survival instinct, there's two types of traits. You need both flexible and fixed traits. So like the fixed traits are going to be that you have your good instinct. So like your good instinct to run from the bear, since that's always bad, right? Like you see a bear, the instinct is run. But more importantly in Saw, and the victims in Saw, is they also need this flexible trait. And that is being able to kind of understand quickly the rules of Jigsaw's game, and that the fact that you're playing a game and that there's a chance you can win. So you have to be able to think flexibly, like, okay, I can't just like panic and scream because my head is in a bear trap. I have to be flexible enough to determine like how the F do I get out of here.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting to think about like the different ways the people respond to that. And then the next thing that I had was talking specifically about tumors.
Oh.
Yeah.
In parts of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they talk very specifically about he has a tumor in your prefrontal cortex. And we have talked about the prefrontal cortex on the show before. Do either of you remember kind of what it does? What it does in your brain? This is a quiz and you're failing.
Thinking?
It does the thinking.
It does the thinking. No. It does like those higher level thinking. So
that's what I said.
Yeah.
You had it.
I'm just going to call it the PFC because that's easier. Your PFC is that is responsible for a lot of like your executive functioning processes. So like planning, organizing, critical thinking is kind of that higher level thinking. So it's a bad part of the brain to be like consumed with a tumor. It's not so good. But so just in general, it's pretty well established that brain tumors can lead to changes in your brain, obviously.
Really?
Which lead to things like either like a flattening or a dulling of your emotions. That's pretty common when you have a brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
Or changes in your personality. It's a pretty well-known thing. So
I've watched enough ER to know.
Exactly, right. ER and Grey's Anatomy. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So PFC tumors and patients with that, they show decreased initiative, decreased emotional control, reduced reliability and foresight, so can't really think ahead, some childish behavior, and disinhibition, which really, we don't see decreased initiative. In fact, I think we see an increase.
An increase for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, we do really see like Jigsaw has, he's not really thinking ahead like, oh, if I get caught for this, or maybe he doesn't care.
Because he's going to die anyways.
Like he's definitely showing some damage to that specific part of his brain. And we don't know what he was like before this, but we can only kind of assume that maybe the tumor has something to do with it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So just in general, like if a tumor in your PFC is going to change your personality, there's two kind of components of personalities that people have. So the first is their temperament. And so this is things like how you automatically react to environment stimulation. So like the best example I can think of this would be like babies. Like a lot of times babies are referred to by their temperament. Like they're either like chill, easygoing, or like maybe they're colicky and they're really fussy. And it's just kind of like how you respond to your world. My temperament changes all the time. A lot of it has to do with how hungry I am.
Yeah, or my hormones.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So temperament can definitely like change. It's not like this very fixed part of your personality, as opposed to character is the second component of someone's personality. And that's more like your self-concept. And like it's responsible for like regulating your behavior. So it's like, who do you think you are to your core? And that kind of governs how you're going to behave in situations. So one study like directly examined the decision making in both risky and ambiguous tasks for people with brain tumors in their PFC and people with healthy brains. So, unsurprisingly, people in tumors with their in their PFC had problems with attention, memory, information processing, and executive functioning. And also, specifically, tumors in your PFC impact your theory of mind.
No.
Either of you know what that is?
No.
No.
So,
Chauncey.
Theory of mind is basically your knowledge that other people's beliefs and desires and intentions and emotions are different than yours, or they may not match yours.
Less than.
Oh.
No,
they're less than. Yeah. So like a fancy way of saying perspective taking, like it's the theory of mind is like your ability to realize that other people are not having the same thoughts and experiences as you, even in the same situation, that they might be thinking something different or feeling something different. So I think we can see that with Jigsaw because he's thinking like, oh, I'm going to change their life. They're going to go through this trauma and then they're going to be so grateful and their lives are better. He can't like understand that, well, maybe they won't.
Right.
Maybe you're just going to ruin them.
This is actually just one more fucking trauma.
Yeah.
To pile on.
Yeah.
And also, the tumors in that area were shown to kind of reduce your ability to recognize intentions of other people. Interesting. So, like, you really just can't understand like their intentions or emotions or things like that. So then there was another study that showed it was comparing tumors in the temporolimbic area, so kind of like the area like between your temples and your ears. And that impacts people's perceptions of emotions. Specifically, of all the emotions, it mostly affected people's abilities to perceive fear. Which I thought, why is that the one emotion that's like more affected?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So I feel like maybe my diagnosis of Jigsaw is that his tumor in his prefrontal cortex has spread to the temporolimbic system because he's not understanding that people are having fear in these situations or just not valuing the fear.
Right. Not validating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, people with the tumor that's mainly in the PFC, their higher levels of thinking just required to understand people more in depth. Like they put them through all of like these people with tumors in different parts of their brain, they put them through all of these tests. And like, I just thought that was really kind of interesting because it's like, I don't know, if I have a brain tumor, I don't know if I'm going to like spend my time in a medical study.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you don't have much else to do, why not? Like,
but yeah, so they put them through all these tests. And so people like with the tumor specifically in the PFC, like their higher level thinking tasks were a lot more impacted than just recognizing the emotions, like the people with the tumors kind of more back behind the prefrontal cortex. So it's really kind of interesting just to think about like where this tumor shows up in your brain can have such a difference in how it affects you and really like change your personality. It's just like bizarre to think about.
I mean, honestly, I think it's like when you start talking about the brain, it's almost like this weird moment where you're like, that's literally everything I am. This like one weird little organ is just everything about me. So it's wild to think of a tumor, but it makes sense that like it would affect it so differently because like I don't even think the most advanced neurological doctors fully understand the brain. Like, so it's crazy. It's like a wild west out there.
No, totally.
It's a wild west up there.
It's like, I mean, now we're getting like philosophical, but it's this physical, it's just this physical mass, right? Just like, you know, like your finger, right? Like it's just a body part, but at the same time, it is all thoughts and emotions that you've ever had or ever will have. Like it's so crazy.
And that you had about other people's thoughts. Like
your theory of mind.
You hold the whole fucking universe up here.
Yes.
Wild, man.
Universe.
So I did
Let's do some shrooms.
I know, right? So I did find in the DSM, because I feel like it's kind of like an easy go-to to say that, you know, Jigsaw has like antisocial personality disorder or one of those things that they all get that diagnosis, really.
They do.
I'm going to say that he has an other specified mental disorder due to another medical condition, because I don't know Jigsaw before this. And I think it's all medical. I think it's all the tumor.
Well, really, I mean, that tracks because as far as we know, it didn't start until he had the tumor.
Right.
Like, it's not like he's been doing this his whole life.
I guess technically we don't know that.
We don't know. But he does mention something about how it wasn't until he got his like inoperable tumor that he knew was going to kill him, that he started to value life.
Right.
So that's my professional diagnosis as a doctor, is that this is due to the tumor.
Love.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Loves it.
So there we go.
Love it.
And then obviously every victim is either dead or has PTSD.
Yeah. Right. They're going to have some stuff to work through.
Yeah.
Like missing a foot.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go. That's my psych for tonight.
Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went into kind of the making of this movie. I watched the what documentaries they always make for these, like the making of Saw. Because I feel like it's always fun to be like, well, how did this get made? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I feel like this is actually really interesting. So the director is James Wan, who I'd like absolutely have heard of. He's done a lot of like much bigger movies since then.
Right.
But this was his directorial debut. I can
Was
say
it?
words.
I didn't know
Yes.
that.
So James Wan and Lee Wannell, I think is how you say his last name, Lee Wannell. He's the one who plays Adam. They met in film school. And when they graduated, they were like, let's make a movie. That would be cool, right? And it was like, use all your skills. Like James Wan can direct and he can star in it and write for it. Like, here's what we want to do. So let's just like do it. Let's make this movie together.
That's awesome.
Okay. So I was like, they're such little babies. Like when I watched the little making of, it's like, they're so young and so Australian.
Yeah.
It was like all of a sudden I was like, what? I was like,
I
that's
didn't
not
know
what I
that.
expected them to sound like.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like you ever heard his accent.
No, I feel like you didn't.
No.
So yeah, this was kind of their first time doing all of this.
I didn't know.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So James Wan is the one who came up with like the general idea of, what if these guys woke up in like a space and, they had to do all these things. Like he had like the big picture and then he left it to Lee to like actually write like the script. So Lee is the one who came up with like, well, why would someone do this? And that's when he came up with the tumor. Where it's like, this could be what's actually guiding someone who, so he came up with like the actual script.
Oh, cool.
So he's the writer for the movie as well as the, like one of the main actors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had this whole little script put together and they sent it to their manager who had pitched it in like around Australia because that's where they were. And no one really took it. Like they kind of had a few leads and like it didn't go anywhere. And so their manager was like, why don't you go pitch it in LA? Like pitch it to Hollywood. And I thought it was funny during the little interview, Lee's talking about how he was like, it's like if you went on a hike and did really poorly and your friend was like, how about we just try Everest?
Right.
Like he's like, they wouldn't take it here. Why would they want it in Hollywood?
Yeah.
I like that.
But shout out to this manager. She believed, and they didn't want to show up empty-handed. So what they did is they filmed a short, and the short was the jaw trap scene.
Cool.
So like James Wan, he made the jigsaw puppet like entirely from scratch. He just made it himself, and they like constructed this little bear trap, and they like called their friends to be like, help us make this short. So that scene is what they filmed as like a little short to give them like a little taste of what the movie could be, and went off to LA to pitch the movie, and people absolutely loved it.
They
watched like the little bear trap short, read the script, and they were like, okay, yeah, let's make this movie. So it happened like super quick. They were like, okay, great, come to LA. Shoot this movie right now. And I think James Wan had to work through some like visa issues. So he had to go to Canada for a while, like a week, to get that all sorted out. And because that took so much time, by the time they got back, they pretty much had no prep. It was like, all right, time to shoot the movie. So like the actors were just like, okay, I guess we aren't gonna have a lot of time to like prepare or go through this. So like the entire time, it really does feel like watching them is like they're just scrambling to put this thing together. James Wan is just like running around. He said he was working like pretty much nonstop. It took them 18 days to film this movie, and he was like, I just didn't sleep. Like,
wow.
That's not a lot of
That's
time.
really quick though.
right? Yeah. No, so they gave them 18 days
Wow.
to make the movie. And I think they had like storyboards, which is, what they prepared to kind of say like, oh, these are the shots we want to get. And they kind of quickly realized that they weren't quite going to be able to get what they wanted. Even like the style that James Wan wanted to shoot, they were like, that's too expensive. So we're gonna have to change it. So much had to change that he said like directing was pretty much just on the fly. Like it was like, okay, we'll just make changes. But because they were on such a big time crunch, like they would get like 2 chances to shoot something.
Oh my gosh.
It was like,
So
okay,
maybe-
moving on.
Maybe that's why the acting feels bad and off, because like they just didn't have enough
given
time
the
to do-
circumstance.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like they had no time to prep and they were so tight that it was like, all right, time for the next one. Like they talk about how when they were like they finished filming like the last scene, they were like actively taking down the set already.
Oh
It was
my
like, all
God.
right, let's go. You're done.
Yeah.
Get out.
Movie's over. Get out.
That's it. You're done. So for the actual shooting of it, they got kind of lucky and they found this warehouse that was used for like shooting films. And it kind of just worked because it matched their like kind of grimy effect that they were going for. So the only room that they built from scratch is the bathroom because they knew like what that set needed to look like. Everything else was like, because I think they even had like, oh, like this is kind of a police station set, or like, oh, this is kind of like that kind of set. So everything else they just like kind of tweaked and then just used what was already in the warehouse, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
So
It's
it did feel like a warehouse, but it felt right.
Yeah.
So, like,
no, like they,
Totally.
well, they were like, yeah, I mean, they couldn't afford to go to different locations.
Right.
So they had to shoot everything in one spot, which includes the car chase scene that was shot inside a warehouse.
Oh my gosh.
So I think they used kind of like some like, like a little like trick, which is what you do is you bring it inside the cars, you turn off all the lights, and then you move lights around the car. So it's like, oh, you have lights as if there was a car in front of them, and then you move lights as if they were passing street lights. And so that's how they got that effect. So nothing was shot outside because they could not afford to shoot anything.
That makes me want to go rewatch it and like see it.
Because I noticed that it was like that the weird fast camera and stuff like that. But okay,
yeah. Well, and he did say like, he uses like that fast camera and like loud music effect to make things seem like scary or like faster. And it's like, when you're working on a budget, it's kind of a quick trick, I think, to get it to look that way. So let's see. So the bathroom scene was shot chronologically. They were like, it's just easier if they go in order, because then they don't need to worry about like, what
like continuity.
Continuity. Yeah.
And like cleaning up.
Yeah. It's like, no, let's just shoot it all in order. And that way we know.
That makes sense.
And it took them, of the 18 days, I think the bathroom was like 6.5 days. So it was like a third of their time was getting the bathroom scenes. And then for the bathroom scene, the scene where Dr. Lawrence is supposed to be cutting his leg with the saw, he accidentally cut a bit too far and cut his actual leg.
Oh no!
Shooting the movie.
Oh no!
So he was like, yeah, all of a sudden it was like, oh. So there's some real blood in that scene.
Oh my god!
He'll have that scar to remember it by. It's an honor scar.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Wild.
After being locked in that bathroom, it's just you start to lose it,
right?
Gotta saw your leg off.
Yeah. Let's see, for the scene where you have like the drills that are going towards the guy's like brain, the little drill bits were made of just like glue sticks that were painted metallic, which like they looked so real.
They
so
did.
just little glue sticks that they cut to size, and then painted with like metallic kind of like paints to get it to look like a drill bit, and then the like to get it to go towards the head, it was like a manual crank. So like they had like full control of how it was moving, and it was set to like a limit. So it was like there was no way it could touch their head.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was kind of interesting. Because like, I
that
feel like it looked
No,
So real.
I didn't think it looked fake at all while I was
Movie
watching
magic, like
Yeah.
it's impressive. Yeah.
And then for the jaw trap, so I talked about how they made one for the short because they needed that little like jaw trap thing. They didn't use the one that James Wan originally made because it was like very clunky. They had like an actual person make it for them. But for the scene where Jigsaw's like, oh, here's what could happen, you know, where it like opens and then the head explodes. The way that works is they had like a little button that would open the little jaw thing and then a separate button that would set off like some pyrotechnics inside the little mannequin head, and they just like hit them at the same time. So it was like open and shoot out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fun. So I mean, I mentioned it was his first time directing, and because of that, they finished shooting and they kind of realized that they didn't shoot enough scenes. Like there were some key things during editing that were missing. So James Wan and Lee were staying in an apartment, and then there was an extra bedroom in that apartment, and that's where they were doing the editing. So it was like they would come home and it was like, okay, time to edit. So it was like just nonstop for these guys. But during editing, like after they finished, they were like, oh, we're kind of missing some like key scenes. So one was after Detective Singh is shot, they didn't get him like falling down.
Oh,
okay.
Another one is like the woman that has the jaw trap. They didn't do like her digging through the guts to get the key. So there were like a few where they were like, oh, we probably should have shot something for this. And so they got like a skeleton crew, and I forget who it is. It's I know for sure it's like a guy. It was one of the men, went and like did all of it basically. So that scene where the detective's falling, like that's not him, that's someone else. And the one where like the woman's supposed to be digging through the stomach, they're like, yeah, like I guess if you look close, you can probably tell that those are like a man's hands.
Oh, I want to go rewatch it now.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So like,
I didn't know. It's not, I didn't notice. Yeah.
I didn't notice either. No, I was like, I had no idea. So yeah, there's like a few scenes. I think there's one where like the detective's like walking into the room with a gun. That's also not him, which is why you can't see his head. Like they like cropped it to get him out of the shot. So they had to like do all these little like reshoots with like a completely different actor.
Yeah.
Which is just so funny. And then one thing that James Wan was talking about is like being thankful that Adam was supposed to be a photographer because it meant that they had so many photos. And so he used the photos. I feel like you see them in the scenes, right? Where it's like, oh, they're playing through the story and you just see like the photos coming through. So like, I don't think that was as planned, but it was like, well, we didn't shoot it, but we have a bunch of photos of it. So let's just use the like production photos that we already have to like get it together. So this movie really it seemed like rushed and like spliced together to get that final product.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Right?
It's so funny, like, just because, like, the fact that it's just clearly a man's hands or something, but also you're paying attention to the intestines. So it makes sense that it totally just goes over people's heads because, you're paying attention to other stuff.
I mean, during the little, like, documentary thing, I feel like they were the first to be like, there's so many errors in this movie. Like, of course people are going to notice them. Like, I feel like they're very self-aware of what this movie was. So after they like started wrapping up the movie, they submitted it to Sundance. So it was like, let's do it. And Sundance said yes. They were like, sure, you'd be great for like, I think they do like a midnight kind of showing thing. And I guess they finished it 2 days before the Sundance screening.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Damn.
So they rushed to get it to Sundance, and it had like a pretty positive reaction. I guess like Lee was just so nervous. He was like, they had a seat for me. Like, you know, they reserve a little chair for you. And he was like, I could not. So he was like, so he just like stood in the back of the theater, like biting his nails. And he was like, if I saw someone move, I'd be like, oh my God, they're leaving. It's over. Like that's it. Our movie's done. And I think James Wan was also like panicking, which like makes sense. I mean, I just out of college.
Right.
They managed to put this movie together last minute. It goes to Sundance. And so I guess for a lot of the screenings, they were like, I can't go. Like they were like, I cannot be present. I cannot watch people watch this movie.
That. I totally get that.
But it did really well. People loved it. And Lionsgate ended up picking it up. Actually, I don't know if they did it before Sundance or after, but either way, Lionsgate picked it up. Sundance is in January, and they set to release it on Halloween, 2004. Nice. So finally, they were able to take a breath.
Yeah.
Because they had like a lot of months to get ready. And then at this point, Lionsgate kind of took over to do like the promotions. They set up like a whole website for Jigsaw. Like they were able to like get the word on the justice, street, you know? Yeah, get people excited for it. So one thing is though, after Sundance, it got an NC-17 rating. Okay. So the one that was shown at Sundance is a little gorier than what we actually saw. They knew they had to at least get it down to an R because you know you want people to watch it.
Yeah.
So they did have to like, I think they just kind of like cut down some of the scenes. So I think in that original Sundance showing, they showed more.
Okay.
I don't know if they cut like full scenes. I think it was more about like reducing or like showing less of certain things.
Yeah.
But they were able to get it down to an R before getting it out. And overall it did really well. The budget was about, I saw anywhere from like 1 to 1.2 million, which pretty low for a movie.
Right.
And it ended up grossing over $100 million worldwide.
Yeah.
And shout out to James Wan, who was like, don't pay me a salary, just pay me a percentage. So he made out really well from this.
Smart.
Am I remembering correctly? But like, he's the one that did the Conjuring movies, right?
Yeah. And I think he did Insidious. And then he did like Aquaman.
Okay.
More recently, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I think they greenlit Saw 2, like literally opening weekend.
Wow.
Like they knew after this movie came out, they're like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it.
Well, there are so many ways to torture people and like have them try to save themselves. Like there's so many games that you can come up with.
Yeah. So I had to look it up. I was like, how many movies are there? I feel like as soon as I turned it on, I was like, how many of these are there? So there are 10 movies.
Okay.
You get Saw 1 through 6, like just Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you got Saw 3D, which is also Saw the Final Chapter.
Right.
Then you got Jigsaw, Spiral, and then Saw 10 came out in 2023.
Oh, okay.
So like
I didn't know that was that. I didn't know that it was that recent.
Yeah, no,
I had no idea.
There are 10, and they are alive and well. The last one.
I feel like I want to go watch 10.
I know. So, yeah. If you were curious on the order, I was, it's like, let's find out what order you're supposed to watch them in. So, I guess they are connected.
Okay.
So, like, there is some stuff that follows. So, if you wanted to watch it in order, you should watch Jigsaw first. I guess chronologically.
It's like his origin story.
Yeah, and then Saw 1, Saw 10, and then Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then Saw the Final Chapter, aka Saw 3D, and then finally Spiral.
Nice.
Okay.
So you can choose if you want to watch it in the order they were released or chronologically.
Interesting.
I don't think I can commit to. I can't commit to watching all of them. I know I love horror movies. That's why we do this podcast. But I'm thinking of watching 10 Saw movies. I'm just no, thank you.
No, I don't think any person can handle that.
No.
I think that's too much.
Yeah, I agree. So I have to say, I have one like lingering thought that bothered me that they didn't stick with was when we're meeting the detectives and we're seeing the original crimes, the dead body has a jigsaw tattoo.
Oh yeah, yes. Or like cut out part of the skin.
Or not tattoo. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Cut out. It was a cut. It was like almost like a stamp. Like
they say jigsaw, right?
Yeah.
I think
and I was like, I love that, and they just never it never
No,
You're right.
happened. But I wish that they would have done that. Like, I thought it would have been cool if, like, when Adam realized he wasn't getting out of there, if he would have, like, realized that he already has, like, a jigsaw or, you know, thing. Like,
that would have been good.
I was like, oh, that would have been so cool.
No, yeah, they set it up.
It did.
So that was the one thing that I was like, I wish they would have done that.
I wonder if in other movies they do, like they go back to it.
Or if it was just a forgotten. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would have been such a good ending.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know this movie, it could have done so many other, it's good. I think the actual idea of this movie is actually very good. But the execution.
Yeah.
There were just a few things that they could have done better.
But honestly though, hearing from you how it was made, I have more respect for it because I'm like, no, this is what they did in this rushed state.
No, actually,
honestly, it's not that bad.
Such a short filming time and just for everything. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of crazy that it came together to be as good as it was. And again, like the story was there, like it was interesting.
I mean, it's like an iconic horror anthology. Like when you think of horror, Saw is one of the ones you think of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's some background and fun facts.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm going to be interested to hear what you guys are thinking. But here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So out of 5 sips, how many are you going to give this film?
I feel like for me, it's like a 3.5.
Yeah.
I was honestly, I think part of it is probably because I went into it thinking I was going to hate it. Again, and I now realize it's because I'd only watched the later movies. So I was actually like pleasantly surprised. But, you know, it does have its little gaps, its little quirks that I think make it could have been better, but there were a lot of things that I really liked about it. So I think it's like a solid 3.5 for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, it's just a 3. I can't go more than a 3. Like, it's a 3 because I do think it's so classic. You should watch it. And learning how it was made, I do have more respect for it. And there are so many parts that are so good and iconic, but it just wasn't, it's not one that like, I guess it did stick with me originally, but I don't know. There's some things I thought could have been better. So I just got to go 3 solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking of 3.5 because while it is definitely not the scariest movie I've ever seen or even grossest movie I've ever seen, I like respect it for its historical legacy and just what it is. And I actually really love that the first one is so much different than the others because I think the first just really holds up on its own. So like I think I give it a 3.5 because I think if you're going to be like, I like horror movies, this has to be one of the ones you see. Like,
you have to watch it. And it is, it's a classic. And honestly, they do twists. The twists all work really well.
Like, I just remember the first time I saw it when that body rises up. I had no fucking idea.
That was epic.
Epic. Blew my mind. So like,
no, totally. Yeah. And that's why, like for me, like 3 is good. And it's like, you got to watch it. It's a good, solid movie.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just staying right on theme because the next episode that you hear from us will be our take on Saw, the musical.
We'll all be together. We'll probably be drunk.
Probably.
You'll get to hear about the whole weekend.
Yep.
And they're doing like a whole world tour. Or I don't know, maybe it's just America. It might be an American tour.
But check your cities.
Yeah.
See if it's coming because I think you can't miss it if it is.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
I'll let you know.
Excited.
To be continued.
Here we come.
All right. We will see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Bye.
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 Oh my gosh, you guys are so excited.
So excited.
Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.